In his dust-moted workshop, the town's oldest jeweler buffed the final pendant until both butterflies blazed with an otherworldly light. He had not intended on creating two. Hand over his proud heart, he'd sworn the same ironclad oath: "There will never be another like it. I guarantee absolute singularity." One of a kind, each one more specialized than the last. However, an undiscovered generative brain disease had begun to rob him of his memory. He had done just as he claimed for 83 years of his full life. This was his singular misstep. This single misstep ironically created a matching set. He would never know that, because his ambitious son-in-law had slid the first completed butterfly off of the jeweler's desk and into a display case where a customer had come to peruse. She was a woman of skin as black as onyx. The light reflected off her cheeks and forehead as she smiled down at the glowing piece. It seemed to speak to her, as if the same sun that deepened her skin now radiated from within it. Without hesitation, she made her purchase. The jeweler vaguely remembered working on a piece before brunch, but the memory escaped him. The grey fog of the town they lived in seemed to seep inside, dulling his mind. When he tired of searching for it, he pulled his tools back out and started another. He knew a butterfly was meant to be on sale at his shop. He had a dream of it. He saw its wings flutter in that dream. He chuckled to himself at the thought of the buyer gasping at its beauty. He was going to capture that beauty and allow it to be held, not just remembered. He finished the ethereal butterfly days later. He took it out to the display case himself, holding it as if it would fly away. He placed it in the case carefully, whispering as if to a friend, "It's time for you to find your home. Whose heart will you light upon?" Days later, the shop door's bell gave a lonely chime. Gregory stepped through, the grey fog clinging to his wool coat, like the weight of monotony itself. Across the counter, the old jeweler stood with the fragile dignity of a man living between moments, present yet drifting. He gestured toward the velvet case where the second butterfly rested, a brilliant pulse of yellow-orange light, breathing warmth into the shadows. "You won't find its equal, sir," the jeweler said, his voice soft as worn silk. His eyes clouded for a heartbeat before sharpening with sudden fierce pride. He placed a trembling hand over his heart and leaned forward. "I give you my word, on 69 years of craft, there will never be another like it. I guarantee absolute singularity." Behind him, the son-in-law shifted his weight. His eyes, always calculating the distance between the jeweler's workbench and his inheritance, darted nervously. He adjusted a stack of ledgers that didn't need adjusting. He knew the truth of the first sale. Greed kept his tongue still and heavy. He watched Gregory, waiting to see if this young man might somehow sense the ghost of a memory lingering in the air. But Gregory saw only the glow. "It looks warm," he murmured, reaching toward it, as if it were held by the sun itself. "It was born of a dream, sir," the jeweler whispered, a small secret chuckle escaping him. "It's time for it to find its home. Perhaps your heart is the one it was meant to light upon." As Gregory laid his coins on the worn wood, he didn't feel like a man making a purchase. He felt like a man receiving a compass. He tucked the small box into his pocket, unaware that the singular beauty he now possessed was already walking the promenade, pinned to the chest of a woman whose skin held the very onyx depth the jeweler had dreamed of capturing. Gregory stepped from the threshold of the shop, the gold heavy in his pocket like a captured coal. The town outside was a charcoal sketch, the promenade a blurred movement of grey wool and damp mist that tasted of salt and forgotten things. He felt like a ghost among ghosts until he reached the water's edge. Then the world sharpened. The crowd didn't just part, it seemed to exhale. There she stood, a living silhouette carved from the deepest night. Her skin, the color of polished onyx, held a luster that made the daylight look pale and sickly. She wore a blouse of blinding, stark white, so crisp it looked like it had been folded from a cloud. And there, pinned over her heart, was the sun. The butterfly on her chest glowed with a yellow-orange fire, its wings seemingly poised for flight. Gregory reached into his pocket, his fingers trembling, as he felt the twin piece. As he pulled it out, the two golden creatures began to thrum. The grey fog around her feet began to retreat, replaced by a sudden, violent bloom of color, the deep green of the grass, the true blue of the lake. He wasn't just looking at a woman. He was looking at the reason the jeweler had dreamed in the first place. Gregory stood frozen, the golden half-heart in his palm pulsing like a trapped bird. He didn't move toward her, and she didn't turn to face him fully. Instead, she simply tilted her head, watching the way the emerald grass reclaimed the earth around her feet. She knew. She didn't need to see the twin butterfly to feel the warmth returning to the air. She simply closed her eyes, letting the first true sunlight in years touch her skin. Gregory watched her, breathless, realizing that to speak would be to tether this miracle to the mundane. He simply stood in her light, a silent guardian of the jeweler's mistake, knowing that the promenade would never be grey again. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please consider liking and subscribing.